When you had a concept, you've decided to make this piece of art, even though you've done it with glass, have it ever occurred to you to try to use other material to make the same piece of, or manifest the concept using a different type of material? Since you already know wood and fabrics, I mean, do you exclusively stick with glass now, or you try other material too sometimes?
First of all, I don't use only glass. I use multimedia, so I use yarn and metals and other materials to combine with the glass. So I'm not a purist, you may call it, with glass only. But I find that glass has a way to express my thoughts and my ideas just perfectly, especially the properties of glass convey the message, I find, in a very clear way. So for now, it makes sense to me to work with glass, but I might change and work with different mediums as I go along. So right now it just makes sense, and the properties work with my concepts well.
Obviously, because you are an immigrant from Israel, so you spend a large part of your life in Israel, and when you came over to the US, and that experience, that memory came with you, and you then translated into your art, right? So I assume that your background, your Israeli background, must express a lot in your pieces. Is that why you chose this form? Because a lot of your work based on a fairly similar element, these little flowers. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Basically, I didn't want to tell my immigration story. It somehow happened. I didn't plan it, and I had no intention on sharing it, but I was invited. No, but I was invited to an artist residency at Pilchuck School of Glass up in Washington, and the subject that was given was dis, which is all kinds of negative dissociation, discrepancy, all kinds of dis. And I chose displacement, and that's where the journey of exploring displacement and eventually got to immigration started. So I probably wouldn't deal with immigration, or maybe I will, but it definitely provoked something in me, that particular artist residency.
If you had the opportunity to come to Hong Kong and in Asia and see the place, because in your work you talk a lot about place and memory, do you see your work evolving, adapting, or taking influence from this place on Hong Kong?
First of all, I find that every place I visit influences me in some way, and I take this experience and the memory of the place with me. And I visited Thailand, I visited Japan, and every visit I feel a very strong connection to those Eastern Asia traditions and cultures, because they're also so ancient and there's so much respect for tradition. And this is something that I feel I share. As an Israeli, I have a lot of respect for my tradition. And as a Jewish person, I have respect for that. And I think it's similar in Asia. There's a lot of respect and a lot of appreciation for culture and acknowledgement of history and the past, looking to the past in order to look to the future. I relate to this very strongly. So
because in Hong Kong, I think we've been living here long enough. There's a lot of tradition here, family tradition and just culture, but also in terms of the environment. Although Hong Kong is a very ultra modern city, there are kind of these pockets of tradition and culture and even architecture, and I find that fascinating. And it will be very interesting to see that
think Israel is exactly the same.
Yeah, Israel, yes.
The combination of the high technology and the super modernism with the history, the archaeology, the tradition, and they're melted together. They're intertwined.
I'm fascinated because I find there's a kind of discourse with what we try to do sometimes too. You know, try to make certain materials not appear as though is that material. It's almost like Michelangelo sculpts, and he sculpted the the Michelangelo sculptures, and sometimes the architecture that he made it look like it's not stone. It's something else. That's really fascinating.
I think,
and there's a kind of frozen aspect to it. You have a work called Secrets, and it's like a scroll, right? I remember. And then there's something hidden inside in your description. Now the question is there really something hidden inside? So,
yes, there is.
So there is actually a tension, right? There's a very interesting tension because you have to break it in order to see what's inside. But you're not going to break it because it's glass. Can you tell us a little bit more about that art? And I understand scroll is something probably in kind of ancient Israeli history, and the scroll is always mentioned a lot as well. Can you explain a little bit about how you came about and what that is really about?
Yeah.
I find that very fascinating.
Thank you. Yes, so you can find scrolls basically in every culture, but my inspiration comes from the Ein Gedi scrolls that were found in the south of Israel near the Dead Sea. They are about 4,000 years old, and they are exhibited in the museum, in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. And I've seen those scrolls multiple times. What amazed me is that even though it was written thousands of years ago, I can read it. I can see those letters and I can read it and understand what it says. And I find this it's amazing. It's breathtaking. Somebody wrote those scrolls so long ago and they survived. And I remember the experience as a child seeing them, and it took my breath away. So this is the inspiration to the scrolls. And when I made the scrolls, I actually embedded handwritten things that I handwritten inside those scrolls, and they're fired in the glass. So if you actually broke it, you'll see what's written. You might not understand it, but you will see it.
I see.
That's very interesting because I've actually been to that museum myself. I've seen those scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls. So that's interesting.
Are they amazing?
Amazing.
Yes.
Totally amazing.